Some Russians flee from Putin's Ukraine war call-up. Some draft-age Russians headed abroad on Thursday to escape their country's biggest conscription drive since World War II, while explosions shook southeastern Ukraine on the eve of referendums planned there by pro-Moscow separatists. President Vladimir Putin's new mobilization campaign escalates a war that has already killed thousands, displaced millions, pulverized cities, damaged the global economy and revived Cold War confrontation. Though polls have suggested widespread domestic backing for Russia's intervention in Ukraine, mass conscription may be a domestically risky move after past Kremlin promises it would not happen and a string of battlefield failures in Ukraine. "Every normal person is concerned," said one man, identifying himself only as Sergei, disembarking in Belgrade after a flight from Moscow. "It is okay to be afraid of the war." Anti-war protests in 38 Russian cities saw more than 1,300 people arrested on Wednesday, a monitoring group said, with more planned for the weekend. Some of the detainees had been ordered to report to enlistment offices on Thursday, the first full day of conscription, independent news outlets said. Putin's defense minister has said the call-up is intended to enlist about 300,000 men. Prices for air tickets out of Moscow soared above $5,000 for one-way flights to the nearest foreign locations, with most sold out for coming days. Traffic also surged at border crossings with Finland and Georgia. One Russian man arriving at Istanbul airport said he left partly over the Kremlin's decision. "It can lead to lots of problems for lots of Russians," said Alex, grabbing his suitcase at a baggage carousel. Russia scoffed at reports of a mass exodus as exaggerated. National airline Aeroflot said it would refund people unable to fly as planned because they had received a call-up. Just punishment. Addressing world leaders at the annual UN General Assembly in New York, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urged the United Nations to create a special tribunal and strip Moscow of its Security Council veto power. "A crime has been committed against Ukraine, and we demand just punishment," Zelensky, dressed in his trademark green military t-shirt, said by video on Wednesday. The 15-member Security Council meets again over Ukraine later on Thursday. It has been unable to take significant action on Ukraine because Russia is a permanent veto-wielding member along with the United States, France, Britain and China. On the ground, Russia's military fired 9 missiles on the city of Zaporizhzhia, hitting a hotel and a power station, said Regional Governor Oleksandr Staruk. At least one person died with others trapped under rubble, he said. Zaporizhzhia is about 50 kilometers 31 miles from the nuclear plant of the same name. In the Russian-held southern city of Melitopol, also in the Zaporizhzhia region, a blast hit a crowded market. The city's exiled mayor said it had killed 3 soldiers and was staged by occupying forces to accuse Ukraine of terrorism, while a member of the Russian-installed local administration accused Ukrainian special services of trying to cause chaos on the eve of a vote. Pro-Moscow regional leaders announced referendums on joining Russia from Friday until September 27 in Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson, and Zaporizhzhia provinces, around 15% of Ukrainian territory. Ukraine and its allies have denounced that as a sham to try and legitimize an illegal land grab. In further violence, Russian-installed separatists said that at least 6 civilians had been killed and 6 more injured in a missile strike on a market in the center of Donetsk on Thursday. A Reuters reporter saw 5 dead bodies, including that of a teenager, and several wounded people. Russia has mobilized. What happens now? Putin will need to tread carefully in sending men from safe lives in Russia to the trenches in Ukraine. Vladimir Putin has gone nuclear. Admittedly, things have not been going well. Kyiv's counteroffensive has retaken thousands of kilometers of Russian-held territory in eastern Ukraine. Moscow's troops have fled the front lines, dissent from previously loyal pundits has increased, and criticism, oblique though it may be, has even emanated from his pals in Beijing and New Delhi. Faced with the prospect of a humiliating climb down, the Russian president on Wednesday sought to escalate the war by announcing a partial mobilization of Russia's reservists and threatened Ukraine and its allies with atomic annihilation. At the very least, that's an open admission that things have been going very badly and, for all his bravura, Putin will now need to tread carefully in sending men from safe lives in Russia to go and die in trenches in Ukraine. Here's what the move means for both Ukraine and Russia, and what might happen next. Rebuilding the steamroller. When Putin first launched what he disingenuously calls a special military operation against Ukraine in February, much was made of the Russians' superior strike power. But despite vastly outnumbering Ukrainian forces after almost 7 months of fierce resistance, the Russian steamroller was clearly running out of steam. On the battlefield, the Russians were struggling to crack Ukrainian troops supplied with billions of dollars worth of Western equipment, not to mention Western intel. Russia also massively miscalculated the morale gap and underestimated how hard soldiers fight when they know they are facing an existential struggle against a genocidal enemy that resorts to torture, rape and murder. Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin is often associated with the quip that quantity has a quality all its own when explaining Russia's willingness to accept huge casualty numbers. Even if he didn't use those exact words, the sentiment